Hello, good day, good evening, good night to everyone, depending on the time this message meets you. This is Eric Etoke representing Etoke Services. So today, like we promised, we have our dear friend, brother, who's here to tell us about Canada. We talk about Canada, we're referring to the migration program Express Entry. And he is somebody very discreet and would like to use the name Pascal Mungo for now. Maybe in future he will tell us who he is, but for now let's call him Pascal. So Pascal is here to tell us about his experience going through the Express Entry program. For those who wanted to have more on that, keep your questions ready. Text them or write in the comments below, and we will find time to answer them. I can answer some of them. If I'm not able to answer, then he will do the rest. He will answer the rest of the questions. So right away we begin with the question session. So hello, Mr. Pascal, how are you?
Hello, Eric. I'm very fine, and I hope you are too. And thank you for having me on this platform where we're basically going to be sharing experience on the different immigration programs, or rather specifically the Express Entry program, which is the one through which I immigrated to Canada. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. So the audience was really pleased when they saw the publication, the advertisement that I made, and they were excited to have you. So now it's true we are pre-recording this because of one thing that came up. We couldn't make it for tomorrow, but tomorrow we will still play it for the audience to get it,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
later on we can schedule another meeting and then have them listen to you live.
That's right, that's right. And I'd like to use the opportunity to apologize to our viewers and to say that sometimes, due to unforeseen circumstances, our schedules did not really work as initially planned because, there's certain things that just happen and spin out of your control. So, unfortunately, I can no longer be available tomorrow morning for the live session, which is why we've decided to pre record the session so that our viewers will not be disappointed, and we would have made sure that we followed through on our commitment to at least deliver on this information session.
So right now it is almost midnight and we are doing this work because we have your heart. So it's really because we have your heart. If not, we will be sleeping now by now. So
Sure.
let's start now with the first question. So Pascal, how did you get interested in traveling to Canada?
So I think mine is quite a unique story in the sense that I usually tell people each time this question pops up in a conversation, I'll tell people that if you had told me in the month of January 2018 that I'd be in Canada the next year, 2019, I'd have taken you for a joke. But then, due to a number of circumstances, things changed quite fast, and sometime during the middle of the year, around the month of June, July, that's when I decided to make up my mind to get involved in the Express Entry program, and that's where things really began.
So amongst the many programs that Canada has to offer in terms of immigration, why did you choose the Express Entry? Because there are others.
Very good question. Because initially I was exploring a number of different options, and I must say that prior to wanting to immigrate to Canada, I had wanted to study a PhD in Newcastle earlier on. So, Canada was not like my first destination of choice. It's just, as I mentioned, a culmination of circumstances that finally pushed me towards Canada, especially given my circumstances at the time.
Yeah.
So I decided to come to Canada instead because first, and I must give credit to this very good family friend of mine who is already settled here in Canada. He's been in Canada since I think 2014. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's been here for quite some time now. And the credit I want to give to this guy is the fact that he gave me the right information. He was able to give me accurate information, point on information, which was crucial in the process of me making up my mind to come to Canada and not to go elsewhere.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. So you're getting revealing. So we're saying here that information is the key.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely information. I can't stress this enough. Information was key because when we started this discussion about Canada, I was thinking of coming here, maybe to follow up my failed dream of doing a PhD in Newcastle, to follow that up here. But he told me, okay, my friend, I came to Canada as an international student, and I can tell you that it cost me way much more coming as an international student than if I had come through the express entry program, which at the time he was qualified for. He had all the necessary requirements. He met the requirements at the time, but unfortunately, for lack of information, he came to Canada through the international students program. So he told me that after that beta experience, he had sworn to himself never to let a close person, a family member or friend go through the same beta experience. So I guess I'm one of the beneficiaries of his mistakes back in the day.
Wow. Okay, interesting story. So, want to know when did you actually begin this program?
Good. So, one thing led to another. Actually, when I say that, if you had told me at the beginning of January 2018 that I'd be in Canada by the end of 2019, I would not have believed. It was because prior to 2018, I can say that I was okay. I had no dreams of ever, moving and settling abroad, talk less of coming to Canada. No dreams. I had quite a good job that allowed me to travel quite regularly and to earn quite a decent living. But then, coming from Cameroon, if you're one who's familiar with Cameroon, you know exactly what the socioeconomic situation in the country currently is. This is something that started as far back as 2017. So this crisis have affected, I'm not saying I'm more affected than anyone else, I'm just saying that it played a part in me really making up my mind and taking a decision, a firm decision, and acting on that decision to come to Canada. So first, my source of livelihood was threatened. My life was threatened at some point as well. So, and that of my family. So at some point I said to myself, do I want my family, do I want to live in a country where I have no guarantee about the safety of my family, the safety of my person, the safety of my children? Do I want to raise my children in an environment where there's no prospect, no real prospect for them? And the answers to those questions were all big no's. So what did I decide to do? I started finding out about the possibilities, the opportunities that were available to immigrate to Canada, because this very close family friend of mine was already in Canada. And then, from one thing led to the others, we're discussing together. He said, but why don't you try the express entry program? I told him, well, no, I was thinking more about a PhD, doing a PhD, and then over time I can see if I get a job, if I secure a job internationally, then I can come with my family. He said, no, Canada provides a number of immigration programs, among which is the express entry program, and I think you fit squarely into that program, and you have all the requirements. I think we'll probably have time to discuss the requirements under this program. So I think I was more or less set already when we started having that discussion on express entry.
So talking about knowing if you're qualified for the program or not, did you evaluate on the website if you were qualified for the program, or you just went straight writing the English and French exams, or and then submitting your file, or what happened?
Okay, so for me there's multiple answers to that question. Personally, I didn't do the assessment, but he did it for me.
Okay.
On the basis of the information that he asked me. For instance, since I had mentioned that I was in the process of applying to study a PhD in Newcastle, your guess would be that I had already taken the language test. So I already passed my IELTS exam, the academic version of the exam, because there's two different. There's the general and there's the academic. Since I was going to study in the UK, it was the academic IELTS which I took and which I passed. So he asked me what my score was, which I gave him, and then he asked for other bits and pieces of information like my family situation. I was married with a child, your highest academic qualifications, your age, because mind you, all of those play a role, and each of those factors score you a certain number of points. And it is the totaling of all those points that gives you a ranking at the end of the day and tells you whether you're in a good position, we're in a promising position to, to get selected through the Express Entry Program.
Yeah, okay. You've made mention about some of the criteria, like the age criteria. I think one of the most important criteria is the language exam.
Oh yes,
because,
yes, definitely.
Because I read somewhere that I think language is about 20, is from 24 points, and your first language should be about 20. You're working on 20, and your second language on 4 to add up to 24. And we know that the general pass mark from what I read is you need to have 67 point on 100 to be able to be kept in the basin for that sort of selection.
Well, I mean, to be fair and to be honest to myself and to you, our viewers, I have never really bothered to know exactly how many points you could score on the language. My business, as far as those were concerned, was to make sure that I had the highest score possible. First, I'd already taken the English language test, which is the IELTS. I had to take the TCF Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to, be a language expert, so I didn't hold back when I took my exam, so I can tell you that I nailed it.
Yeah.
So, which is why I've probably never bothered to find out
yeah,
what exactly it earned me, but I know that it earned me big time on the score sheet. Yes.
So I just want to make it because this is a question that always comes from the viewers and the audience, is that they asking me questions about the English exam. Is it so important? Yeah, it's so much important because it carries the highest mark, and it makes the difference. Makes all the difference if you can score at least a substantial number of points from that angle. So you see, you were already confident in that area, and it gives you surely a push somewhere. If we start calculating,
undeniably, it gave me quite a handsome bunch, And I just want to say that people, when you listen to us, beware. You should bear in mind that no two circumstances are the same, as you and I were discussing prior to this interview. What I was saying is that there are as many different circumstances out there as there are people who are interested in this program. So you should bear in mind that whatever we tell you on this platform may or may not apply to you entirely. Does it mean that you should completely dump the information we're giving you? No. It's to tell you that certain aspects may apply to you, others may not so much. And why am I saying this? For instance, in my case, I really didn't want to leave any room for error. I didn't need to do both language tests. I just wanted to do things and do them right. I didn't want to, allow anything to chance, because already my English language score was good enough. I just did the French language, the TCF Canada, in order to complement my points. That was why I did it. So in your circumstances, because of course this implies a financial cost.
Yeah.
In your circumstances, if you don't have enough money set aside for your language test, one language test is good enough.
Yeah.
As long as it is one of Canada's official languages.
That's what I was coming to that question. Is it obligatory to write English and French?
No,
French
it is not. It is not. It is not. Last time I checked, the main requirement is you have to show proof, and by show proof is through a language test. You have to show proof that you are proficient in at least one of Canada's official languages.
Yeah, we talked about a certain aspect. I'm kind of recalling. You made mention of somebody assisting you, because I was coming to that. I don't know if you have more to add to it. Did you apply? Yes. Did you apply personally, or someone did it for you?
So I'm going to say we did it together. So this person who advised me all through the process, his family friend who advised me, he was the one who created my profile, and then he would tell me at every step what documents I needed to get ready. So he was really like my immigration counselor. Of course, with the only difference that I didn't pay him for that. Mm-hmm. So his services were free of charge. His advice, his counsel was all free of charge. So I hope that I'm giving something back through this interview as well. In any case, so he would advise, and then he created my profile, and then he would tell me exactly what were the steps to expect, what were the documents to get ready for each and every step. So, and then each time I would go into my profile, I realized that it wasn't as mystified as many people had made me. I mean, before that, I wasn't really interested in coming to immigrating to Canada. But of course, I was always in circles where people would mention immigrating to Canada, and it always sounded like some complicated process,
Yeah.
a very difficult process to go through, very lengthy, very stressful. So I must say that when I started, going through the process myself, doing the steps, I realized that it was pretty much easy. The instructions were clear, the timelines were clear, and you know exactly what was expected of you.
So, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to kind of engage in this? I'm looking at a particular focus. Uh, there is a lot to read about concerning this program.
Yep.
So because many have been asking me and wanting to digest the stuff for them,
Okay.
I keep on telling them you need to invest your time in reading, because if
Oh.
you don't,
Yes, that is key. Reading is key. Informing, getting information, and really knowing what you're getting yourself into is crucial, because this process, and I can tell you, I'm sure you guys are no strangers to the fact that there are multiple immigration agencies out there who charge huge amounts of money to do the process for you.
yeah,
I mean, I have nothing against these companies. I have nothing against their business, but I am saying and I'm telling you here that if you are computer literate, if you know your way around a computer, you can read, you can write, you can do it yourself. Plus, the fact that you go through an immigration agency is no guarantee. These agencies are only doing what you should have done yourself. They have no extrajudicial power. They have no way of pressuring Canada's immigration services to grant you a visa if they didn't want to. So it's not like when you go through them, there's an added advantage or there's an extra chance of you getting your visa or securing permanent residency in Canada. So people, if you can go through the steps yourself, if you know how to create your profile around virtually anything on internet, when you want a service on internet, if you want to use, maybe if you want to go on social media, you need to create a profile. It's exactly the same steps.
yeah,
Just that there's additional security steps that you need to follow, because there's confidential information that's involved, and you don't want to be setting up passwords that can be hacked every now and then. So in any case, the website, the immigration website, Canada immigration website, is quite secured, and you can go through the steps yourself. And in any case, when you're experiencing difficulties, you can always ask for clarifications. There's always a help section somewhere where you can go type your question. Sometimes you can go to the frequently asked questions section, and chances are that the same thing that's bugging your mind, someone probably had the same problem or experienced the same challenge and asked the question, and they were answered.
That reminds me, we putting up this disclaimer. We are not professional or experts or in immigration domain. We are just basically using our experiences to, guide you through your process. So let it be clear. So
this is an experience sharing video. We are not in any way claiming to be experts or connoisseurs as far as the immigration process is concerned. We're just sharing our personal experiences, which we think can be valuable to you, and you can learn one or two things that can help you when you embark on this journey.
Okay, that brings us to the most interesting part, which many people are always want to listen to. Narrate to us the steps that led to you getting your visa.
Okay, that was quite a roller coaster, I must say, because the wait, I can tell you, can be stressful, because it also implies that you put a number of things on hold in your life, a number of projects that you put on hold because you're waiting for this visa to come out. You're waiting to be granted this opportunity to start a new life somewhere else in a country that you may not know, but where you think there's probably more promise of opportunity, there's promise of a better life there. So I'd say that in my case, normally, under normal circumstances, the express entry program lasts 6 months. The processing timeline is 6 months. It could be shorter, it could be longer. All right, depending on your circumstances. Once more, as I mentioned, we don't have the same circumstances. In my case, and I suspect that in my case, mine lasted almost 8 months.
Okay.
Almost 8 full months, because I remember I started course, we are going to be answering multiple questions at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When I made up my mind in the month of July 2018
Yeah.
to embark on this journey, the first step, which I was advised to do, was to create my degree equivalency.
Yeah.
Basically, it's about you getting to show your certificates to an entity, a Canada approved entity that tries to analyze your academic track record and to see if they can establish an equivalency between your educational qualifications and Canada's system.
Yeah.
It is a good indicator not just for Canada's institutions but also for employers in Canada when recruiting you to know exactly where they place you
Mm-hmm.
on the educational ladder. So the first step is getting your certificates, getting your academic qualifications or professional certificates evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say certified, no, evaluated. They're evaluated. Right. Because of course we mentioned that there's a point or grading system, and one of the things that are graded are your certificates, your level of education.
Yeah.
Which is why you need to make sure that your certificates or your diplomas or your degrees are evaluated. And the institution that did mine was World Educational Services.
Okay, and that's located where?
It's based here in Canada, and I think there's another branch in the US, but the one that did mine is based here in Canada.
I think the University of Toronto also does.
I don't remember. Anyway, the institution, in my case, I think there are a number of them out there. You need to find out because depending on which country you are in, there might be some that are, that you're more versed with than others. So in any case, in my case, in my situation, I started the process in the month of July. So I sent in my academic qualifications for them to be able to assess and establish where exactly I would find myself if I had studied in Canada. So in my case, my degrees in Cameroon were exactly equivalent to the same degrees and certificates in Canada.
Okay, good.
So I can tell you that did me a lot of good because I got the points that I needed to get off the certificates and academic qualifications. But then I must warn you that the process is quite lengthy and sometimes might be long, not necessarily because of the institution assessing your academic credentials, but due to your alma mater, your former university or your school.
Yeah, right.
Because part of the process of assessing your credentials is you send them your qualifications. First of all, you send a scanned copy, a scan of the originals, followed by certified copies of those certificates, which you send by post mail. And my small advice in this situation: never send documents to World Educational Services by ordinary mail. It will take time, and when you start this process, you don't want to be delayed.
Right.
It's a race against the clock, so you want to make sure that you do things right. So my advice to people is use the express mail service. It's more expensive, but it's more reliable. You've got other perks that come with the express service, like tracking number.
Right.
You even have options like insisting that the person who is receiving your certificate signs off, acknowledges receipt of it.
Right.
So that was what I did in my case. I sent my credentials, and when West received it, I knew exactly which employee in West signed off on those documents. So you can follow up. There's that advantage. So what I was saying is that delays can intervene when they receive your documents in that situation. What happens is they will assess the authenticity of the documents first, because there are always security details on every document.
Yeah.
There are always, security markers to make the documents difficult for people to duplicate. All right. So what happens is they first of all assess the authenticity of your documents, make sure that the scanned version you send them is an accurate reflection of the certified copies which you've sent as follow-up. The next step in the process is that they would contact the issuing institutions to have them attest that X or Y or Z person who's mentioned on this certificate effectively went through this training program in this year from this year to this other year
Mhm.
in your institution, and this is the grades that he scored, this his marks, this. So
It's a
there's
lengthy
all of those
process.
things. It takes time. So there's
Yeah.
always a back and forth between WES. I'm calling them WES. It is the
Mhm.
abbreviation
I
for
get it.
World Educational
Right.
Services. So I've just referred to them as WES. So there's always a back and forth between WES and your former institution. But the good thing is you're always in the loop. You always know exactly at what step of the process you are. In any case, WES always tells you from the onset, this is what it's going to be about. This is how the process is going to be. This is what the cost will be.
Yeah.
And talking about costs, I really don't want to be mentioning specific numbers here because these things have changed. I got to Canada last year, and I can tell you that between 2018 and now, the costs have changed. So no matter what figure I call now, it's not going to be relevant to you. But in any case, the information is available on their website. You can go to the West World Educational Services website, and depending on how many documents, how many certificates you want to have assessed,
Mhm.
the costing will be shown to you. You will be told exactly how much it would cost. Now, as far as the mailing costs are concerned, I mean it's standard cost, which you can find out that information from FedEx
Yeah.
or from DHL, depending on who you pick to deliver your certificates to West. So that process, in my case, took me from July right down to sometime around November.
Whoa.
So that
Whoa.
was quite a long time. Quite a long time. And I can tell you that in other people's situations, it takes much longer. It depends on how quickly your issuing institution
Replies
responds.
us and responds,
Because
right?
when they send a correspondence to your issuing institution, to your alma mater, what happens is they give them a 10-day window. After which, if they don't get a response, they write them again, and there's another 10-day window which is open again. So they
things
try
that we
to
don't
do their
know.
best.
These are technical things that
That's
we
that's the
don't
thing.
know.
So
Right.
that's what happens. That's what happens. They try to make sure that they've explored every possible avenue to hear from your issuing institution. I don't know what happens if after the second 10-day window they still don't hear from your institution. I don't know what happens. I don't know if they completely terminate the process and reimburse you
Solid file with
and
solid
refund
slip.
you. I don't know. But in any case, you're not getting through this step
Mhm.
without an assessment report, because that's what they issue you at end. Another thing to mention is that when you're doing it, you have to tick when you set up your profile on West, you have to tick the option where they ask for your permission to send a copy of your report directly to Immigration Services.
Okay.
So what happens is by the time you receive a copy of your report, immigration is already aware. They already know. So when you send another copy, it's just for formality's sake,
Formalities,
but they already have a copy of your report, of your assessment report. So that alone took us close to 4 months, if not more. And when it happened, in my case, I already had my passport, my family as well. My family
Mhm.
members had each of them had their passports already, because that's something that will take another amount of time, depending on which country you are in.
Ready, right?
So before getting to this thing, you need to make sure that your passports are ready. If you're coming alone, make sure that your passport is ready and that you have a validity period of at least 6 months, counting from the estimated time of issuance of your visa.
Right.
This is very important. Make sure that you have at least a 6-month validity period. Which means what? Basically, by the time you start the process, you need to have a minimum of 2 years
Of course, right.
validity on your passport. That's the thing. So, I mean,
Okay.
so when I got to this stage, I had my report. I already had my language tests ready. What I did was I prepared another set of documents, among which you had your criminal record, which
Yeah.
is what people call the certificate of non-conviction in Cameroon, but it's your criminal record,
Mm-hmm.
which I had to get ready. I had to prepare my marriage certificate, my birth certificate, as well as that of my wife and my child. We also had to prepare documents like this, equally the medical tests.
Yeah.
You have to Canada. So maybe let's backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to that stage, what happens is soon as I had my report, I had that was the last piece of information that was missing for me to submit and to create my profile and get into the pool, the selection pool.
Yeah.
So with all that, I knew exactly how many points I had. I got into the pool and waited my turn.
Okay.
I think I had to sit out of 3 draws. I think there were 3 successive draws that came and went. I wasn't selected. In the third one, I was selected. So when I got selected, I was sent an invitation to apply
Formally. Right.
formally. And the deadline was, this is a date that I probably would hardly ever forget. It was 17th of January of the next year, of 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
So I officially submitted my documents on January 17th of 2019. That was when I submitted my documents. And of course, going by the processing time, which is told to you when you start the express entry program, the expected date for my visa to be out was July 17th, which was exactly 17 months. But like I told you from the outset, mine was, I think I got my visa sometime end of August. So it took 8 months. I can say 8 months. Yes.
Right.
It was 8 months, really. So among the documents which we submitted after we got that invitation to apply, as I mentioned, your criminal record for each and every one of you, scans of your passport, the biometric pages.
Yeah, right.
And in the case of those who had traveled, who have a travel history like mine, you had to scan all the pages of your passport. All the pages, including those with the visa stamps on them. You had to include them in the scan.
Yeah, because they need that
In
to
addition,
do some kind of
verification. Of course,
verification,
there's a serious background check that's done. For those of you who just think that it's a formality, no, it's not. Especially in the case of Canada. And one thing I came to realize over time is that coming to Canada, if you're vetted to come to Canada, I think it's equivalent to being vetted to go to the US, because
of course,
from Canada, if I were to apply for a visa to go to the US, I think I'd receive a 10-year visa.
No, it's a 10 years. I got 10 years when I was
from the outset.
I got
get
10
a 10-year
years.
visa.
I didn't even
from
stay
Canada.
at the embassy, right?
Yeah. So bear in mind that you're not just being vetted for Canada, but you're being vetted for North America in general. So it's serious business, and they take their work really seriously. So you have to make sure that you reveal your travel history for the past 10 years. I think you have to declare your travel history for the past 10 years. You have to include passport size photos. I think there are clear indications on the website on what are the characteristics of the pictures you need to take.
Right.
No Photoshop, no modifications of what the pictures are, neutral facial expression, and all of those things you can find on the website, so no need to belabor the point. And then besides that, I mentioned the certificate of non-conviction, marriage certificate. Then there's a medical report. Now, before you come to Canada, Canada needs to have a clear picture of your medical history. Do you have existing conditions? It's not, later on, I thought it was discriminating factor. But someone got to explain to me later on that it was just a way for Canada to know if you have existing problems, existing health conditions that need to be attended to when you get to Canada.
Okay.
Right. So it's just that they need to have a clear picture of what exactly do you have any underlying conditions? Are you in good health?
Right.
All right. So it's not like someone would disqualify you because of your medical report. So some people often are afraid of that. No. You just go to and they have a list of certified locations and medical practitioners who are the only ones allowed or authorized to issue those medical reports.
Right.
So you just go to the website and identify the closest hospital or closest medical institution to you, and then you go there and tell them that you want to do your medical exam for Canadian immigration, and they already know the series of exams and tests that you'd have to go through. And it is already, part of the conditions or the requirements is that the medical doctor he's not going to, except if you request one, he's not giving you your medical report.
Right. Yeah.
Except if you request for it. What he does is he just gives you a document, a proof that you have done
right.
the medical report, that you've done the medical exams as is required. Otherwise, he sends your medical results directly to immigration.
To embassy.
That's how it happens.
Well,
I don't know if it sends it to the High Commission, but in any case, Canada already has your medical report before you get into the rest of the process. In any case, so what it gives you is a proof that it's a document just to attest that you've done the medical exams, which you add to the documents that you are submitting as part of your application process. Now, this process comes with what they call a processing fee.
Right.
Which processing fee, again, I can't talk about now because the costs have changed.
Yeah.
The costs have changed, but there's a particular amount per head, and depending on how old your children, if you have children, are, I think there's a discounted rate for children.
Right.
Children under a certain
I
age.
think this
under
information
12,
is still on the website too.
Yes, and all of that information is available on the website. So please, the key, as we said, is go and read. We can only give you pointers. We can only give you indicators and point you in the right direction, but you have to go to those sources of information and learn it for yourself. So when we submitted that, there was a number of steps again that came afterwards. I think after a month, they sent us a request for our fingerprints, which is the biometrics.
Right.
We had to do the fingerprints, and we had to pay a fee for the fingerprints, for the fingerprints to be collected, and we did that. And of course, I need to mention here that each step of the process, when they ask you for a document, there's always a timeline that's attached to it.
Of course.
So you have to make sure that immediately, which means the moment you submit your documents to immigration, you have to constantly check your profile to make sure that there's no message that you haven't read. Make sure that in your message, in your mailbox, you're always making sure that there are no new messages that you haven't read, because it could be a request for further information. It could be just maybe additional information that you need in order to help you in the process. One thing, and that reminds me, you also have to send, in the case of express entry, you have to, one of the criteria was that you need to show proof of working experience.
Yeah, okay, I forgot that.
One thing that we forgot, which is key. So in my case, I had over 4 years of working experience, but it's not like you just say it with your mouth. You have to back that up. So what you do is you need to get a certificate of employment, something that a document that shows that you've worked somewhere. If you are an entrepreneur, a private business owner, you have to submit your business documents that show that you were running a business from this year to that year.
Right.
If you're working under someone, you need to be able to get a document that attests that you worked under somebody. And that document has to clearly stipulate what were the number of working hours that you did each week or each month. What was your pay? All right. What was your wage? What did you earn working for that person? All of this information you might think is there for the sake of being there, but no. All of it, as I later on realized, has to, in a way, justify your revenue. What revenue you show proof of in your bank statement.
Right.
Because generally, what you do is you submit a 6-month bank statement.
Exactly.
So in your bank statement, if you are working for somebody, logically, immigration would expect to see, payments from that employer to you on a certain basis. If you are a private entrepreneur, your business dealings, your current account would show constant transactions, okay, cash flows, cash coming into your account and leaving your account. Transactions, business transactions, that needs to be seen, and we need not mention the amounts per head here, because the information too is available on the website. Right. Depending on how many of you are coming, if you're alone, there's a minimum you need to have. And my advice there is avoid having exactly what you see on that table on the website.
I'd like to mention something. I produced a video last week concerning that, and the amount I saw, which you still have to refer to for a single person, is roughly within 6,000 to 7,000. So just to say, so if the family size increases, then the money increases as well.
Exponentially.
Right.
So basically, my advice is you don't want to submit your documents with exactly what Canada is asking you to have. You have to show proof, because Canada prides itself on having a selective immigration process, which means they choose who comes to Canada. It's not you who chooses Canada. Canada chooses you. Canada picks you on the basis of a certain number of things. And you don't want to give them the least opportunity to doubt that, okay, maybe this guy doesn't have enough money. Maybe if this is all the money he has, he might not be able to go through the entire process. At some point, we might ask him other costs that are related to the process. He might not be able to pay for it.
Continue, right?
So sometimes they might just want to put you out of your misery and just, reject your application.
So,
right?
Just excuse me for a while, because there's something important I want to mention there. It is quite important when you want to begin this process, because many have been asking the question, and sometimes I get embarrassed. The type of answer I may give them, I'm unable to find one.
Yeah.
Your bank statement, your English, your language exam.
Yeah.
You talked about your experience.
Yes, your work experience.
All these things need to be ready from the start.
Yeah. By the time you start your equivalency process, your degree or certificate equivalency process, start readying those documents. Start getting them ready. Start getting that document, that attestation of employment. Start talking to your account manager, telling him, okay, please, I'll be coming over to your bank to request the bank statement for the past 6 months of my transactions,
which will be verified at the
which
later
of course will be
process.
verified. You should bear that in mind. So this is serious business. And you should also make sure that you already have your passport. It's not when your report is ready from West that you start running up and down saying you need a passport. No, I mean, at that point in time, you're running late on your schedule.
That's why I call it a project. When you want to travel to Canada,
yes.
It's a project.
I call it a journey.
You don't just go in, okay, I'm interested in this stuff, and then just go in. What do I begin with? No. You can take you 2-3 years. There are people who want to engage in this program, or who have decided to engage in this program. It took them about some years. I remember when I started preparing for Canada, I think back in the days when I was in school, I started preparing about 4 years before. I knew about the program, but I knew I wasn't ready. And I started preparing for it. It is 4 years down the lane that I finally decided to take action because I was ready.
Good. In my case, like I said, mine was a couple of circumstances that pushed me. I made my decision pretty much hastily. But, I had almost everything set already.
Right.
So, which is why I said earlier on that no two circumstances are the same.
Right.
No two circumstances are the same. I have my circumstances, you have yours. You just have to see what's relevant to you in my circumstances that you can take and then build on. That's the thing. So, fast forward again to when they asked us to go and take submit our fingerprints. We did that. The cost of it was paid for already. We had paid our processing fee. And later on, I think we didn't hear from them for like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
So it was sometime in almost end of July that we were called at the office in Yaoundé. We called there, and then they asked us to send our passports to Dakar, because the issuing office, the visa issuing office in Central Africa is unfortunately in Dakar.
City Guard,
we had to go there and send our passports to Dakar for the visas. So, and at that point in time, I think prior to that, we had to pay what they call the permanent residency fee.
Yeah, which applies still to today.
Of course. You still pay that fee today, but I think it has increased as well.
Yeah, it has.
I think it has increased, maybe doubled even.
Yes, it has.
So you really have to get ready if you want to embark on this journey, as I like to call it. So we had paid our permanent residency fee already, and then we went and sent our passports to Dakar. Again, you send it by express mail. If you choose to send it yourself, send it by express mail. But I think the their office in Yaoundé actually has a possibility for them to send it for you,
Yeah, you
and
just
it's equally
simply
very
pay.
short.
You
just
simply
pay.
go to the office and then you pay
You
some
just
money,
pay.
and then they handle everything.
And they do
I
it
think they
for
kind of
you.
even tell you what is happening with the document as it goes.
Well, in my
That's-
case, they didn't tell me, but I think it was pretty much obvious that we
Yeah.
were already supposed to be expecting the visa. Otherwise, I don't know what our passports would have been going to Dakar to
yeah,
do.
really. When they
Because in
call
any
you for
case-
a passport,
Yeah,
you
if you
use-
call you for a passport, it's obviously going to
post-
Dakar to come back with your visas.
Okay.
Right? So, when our visas came back, or our passports came back with the visas in it from Dakar, that was early October.
Mhm.
That's when, first days of October. And that is when finally we could, heave a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
It had been 8 long
After
months of
a
waiting.
Sus.
All right,
Big
a long
suspension period.
suspense. It was a long suspense, really long period for one to be in suspense. But in any case, it was
Nice one.
it was worth the while. I can
Right.
tell you, it was worth the while. And then we decided finally to travel to Canada in the month of September.
Okay.
So we arrived here in Canada last year in the month of September.
Wow.
Yep.
That's winter was already approaching.
Oh yes. Well, the winter wasn't there yet, but it was
feeling
already. There were signs. They were already telling signs that there was something really, really cold that was about to hit us.
Okay, that brings us really. I think he has explained. I don't see any question that we will ask him here that he has not yet touched. But anyways, the questions that are coming here will just be straightforward, so they will not be so complicated because he has
Yeah.
talked about everything, practically everything.
Mm.
But one thing that comes up as a question
Yeah.
is always, does Canada has a lottery process like the
Yeah.
US?
I would say that Canada has. I don't want to call it a lottery process because it's not as complex as that of the US.
It's not even lottery.
It's not
For
like
me-
it's
for
just
me,
a
not
pool.
lottery.
It's a selection pool.
It's
because
it's a
the
study of
only-
file system.
Exactly.
Call it.
It's a processing system or platform, because the system only pulls you out of it on the basis of your cumulative points.
Yeah. Which you can
Because every week there's a cutoff point.
right.
Minimum score for this week could be 400. If the minimum score this week is 400, anybody who has 400 and above makes it.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there are weeks, I'm saying 400, it could be an exaggeration. It depends on the weeks. It depends on the quality
Yeah. Of those
of
who are in.
those who are in the pool at that given period. So it varies. Some weeks it drops as low as 200.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, some weeks. So really, you shouldn't bother if you don't make it through the first, second, third, fourth, fifth round.
Yeah.
Don't even bother. All right? Don't bother. In any case, there will be a week where the points might drop. All right, the trend may be in your
Mhm.
favor, and then you'd be among those who would be pulled out of that pool. So I wouldn't call it a lottery process. It's not, at least not in the sense of what the
Mhm,
US does.
yeah,
The green card
Sure.
lottery process. It's nothing like that.
Okay, that's clear. So we don't talk about if somebody tells you that Canada is involved in a lottery process,
No, please.
guys.
It's not.
Think twice. So this brings me to another question. I think you've already answered it, so we just go straight to the answer. Did you migrate alone? I think you said it already.
No, I came with my family. I came
And-
with my family, and what I can say about coming with your family is Canada is an aging society, and they tend to be very warm towards people who migrate as a family,
As family, right?
as opposed to when you come as a lone ranger. Generally, there are many social services, there are many benefits, social benefits that are available to families when they arrive here in Canada. So you're in a better position if you're immigrating as a family, as a small family. But of course, I'm not saying you must if you can't. If you can't, it's okay. All right, you can come, and then your family can join you later on.
Right.
But the thing is, mind you, if you have a family, you had better declare your family, mention your family from the early stages
right?
of the process.
Else they will never.
Else you might be embarrassed when the time comes for you to bring your family to join you here in Canada. You might be in for quite a rude awakening if you don't, mention them from the beginning,
Right.
from the early stages of the process.
Okay, good. So this one is, you said we will not mention figures, but this question is keeps up coming up. Can you give us an estimate of how much you spent throughout the process?
Alright.
Without the bank statement, anyways.
No, I mean, I'm definitely not going to be talking about my bank statement or what amount of money I had coming to Canada. But in any case, if I were to make a rough estimate of what it cost me, and again, I'd like to specify that your circumstances are not my circumstances. In your case, it could be more, it could be less.
Yeah.
All right. So, I am married. At that time, I had a child, my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and myself.
Right.
So for all three of us, the entire process, right up to our air tickets, I can say cost us somewhere close to 6 million.
Okay.
I would say
Okay, good.
6 million.
Okay, good.
All right.
So, now that you've said this,
Mm.
was the whole process cumbersome or complicated?
Nope. I can say that it's like I said when this friend of mine showed me the steps, I realized that it's something I could have done myself. The thing he gave me, and for which I still am very grateful to him right up to today, is the right information.
Right?
He gave me the right information. All right? And that's more than anything that anybody could have given me given those circumstances.
Just
it was so
information.
invaluable. It was so invaluable because he pointed me in the right direction. And for that, I think it made the rest of the process so much easier. Much easier than I had expected. All right? I mean, the steps are clear.
Right.
The requirements are clear.
Just have to
If
to meet them.
if by some miracle, by some magic, you still are not clear with the instructions, like I said, there is a help section, there's a
Right.
help desk, there's a frequently asked questions section that you can go to and see what are the questions what are the concerns that people are raising in that section. It may apply to you, it may not. And then while we were waiting, like I said, we went through an 8-month long suspense.
Mhm.
During that period, I discovered that there were multiple forums on internet
Of course.
where people who are involved in the immigration process would go and discuss their different challenges. All right. For instance, when we were asked to pay our permanent residency fee, there was a couple of forms that we were supposed to download and
Mhm.
fill out
Yeah.
and submit online. So there were sections where I was not very clear exactly what or how we needed to fill them.
Yeah.
All right. So what did I do? I just went online. I typed the name of the form, and then among the suggestions that came up, I saw a number of forums where people were discussing how to fill out that form. So in addition to downloading the form for myself, I went to those forums. I was able to get all the necessary
Pertinent
clarifications again on how to properly fill out those forms. So it's very important as well.
Thank you very much. So, I think we're getting to the end of this. So, now that you're here,
Yeah.
what are your impressions about Canada?
Well, Canada, I don't know how I can describe it, but before coming to Canada, I think I'd done my research on the Canadian people, and the one constant that everyone seemed, or the common denominator that people had about Canadians was that they're very polite people, and yes, I can tell you that that was the first thing that struck me
Sorry.
when I came to Canada. Canadians are always apologizing for any and everything. They're always thanking you. They're always asking you if you're all right. At some point, during your early days in Canada, it can be sickening at some point.
Right.
You can be kind of fed up because you think, anyway, coming from where we're coming from, we're not used to people being so polite all the time. We're not used to people wanting to offer their help and for nothing, no
Right.
strings attached, all the time. So at some point, you might pinch yourself and be like, okay, is this really happening, or is this person feigning, to be a good person, or do they want something out of me?
Yeah.
So it can put you in a really embarrassing position at some point. But when you warm up to it and
Mhm.
accept that that is how Canadians are, then it becomes life becomes much easier for
You
you.
soon become like them.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I'm a particularly. I don't know that I'm an impolite person, but
let me tell you something.
I think I have my moments.
Let me tell you something
Yeah.
about Canadians, which I've kept in my mind from
Yeah.
day one when I came. Have you realized that whenever you go to whatever store or supermarket or whatever, once you open the door, there's somebody will be waiting for you to pass before.
Oh, of course. They always
Somebody has to hold the
Canadians
door
are
for you
super
to.
polite. They're always like, after you, sir. No, after you, sir. I insist, after you, sir. I'm like, oh my
Or
God.
he will be opening the door. You were like
Oh,
2
you're
steps
like-
away, but he's
Yeah.
waiting for you to come
And
pass.
and he gets in, and when he gets in before you, he holds the door open for you.
Right.
You know, he keeps the door of the grocery store open for you to come
It
in.
has become a
I'm
habit.
like, wow.
It has
okay.
become a habit for me.
This is yeah. I mean, it should become second nature as well, because the least you can do is reciprocate.
Right.
That's
So
the least you can do.
this brings us to the last question.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What is the advice you will give to somebody who is now preparing, getting set to embark on this journey?
First thing, I want to say have a plan. All right?
Okay.
Have a plan. Have a plan. Get a strategy. Know what you're coming to Canada to do, because, you know, from our accounts, I don't want to be part of those people who've always, told misleading tales about the West.
Right.
All right? This is not a land of milk and honey.
Of course.
But what I can guarantee you is if you're hardworking,
Mm-hmm.
if you're brave enough, if you're bold enough to, go out there and seek for that which is yours, you will certainly not lack
Right.
if you're in Canada. All right? If you're a hardworking person, if you know what you want in life, you're certainly going to make it in Canada. But if you're thinking that you're going to make a quick buck
No way.
in Canada, I'm telling you, you're in for a really rough time.
Right.
All right. So this is not a land of milk and honey. This is a land of opportunity. I like to say it like that. This is a land of opportunity. So it is up to you
search.
to seek out those opportunities, to make the most of those opportunities, and of course, change your livelihood and improve the life of your family, your friends, and all those around you, those you care about.
Thank you very much. I think the advice has gone deep into our heads. So we thank you, Pascal, for being here. I think
Thank you very much, Eric.
your contribution will go a long way to help those who are still in doubt and who want to begin program. In the process. Like I said, if you have any questions, leave the questions on the comment sections. We will read them, answer them accordingly, and if there's need to be of assistance in any way, in terms of information, we will be there to guide you. So thank you. Any other time we may meet, sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Like you said already, depending on what the questions are, if there are questions that require us to do another live session like this, I don't mind doing so if we meet at the right time and place. Okay.
Thank you.
If our schedules really allow us to do so, I don't mind sending out the right information out there, making sure that people know exactly what to do, how to do it in order to get to Canada and be able to pursue their dreams and ambitions in life.
Thank you very much, and this is
you.
the end.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.